Okay, everybody, welcome to this week's edition and New Year 2024 of Picking and Putting. Our episode this week is So You Say You Want to Coach. There's Liberty Bill on the mic, and here's Dr. Z with the Carolina Panther and the Charlotte skyline in the background.
Yeah, it's the stadium for now.
Yeah, yeah.
I want a new toy because the team sucks. So give me a new toy at least, a new stadium.
Well, new owner.
That'd be the best.
You got any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah, Tony Romo for convincing CBS to pay him $17 million a year to do absolutely no preparation whatsoever for the games that he broadcasts every week.
Well, yeah, on that regard, I want to do out a shout out to NBC Peacock. What a wonderful glitchy streaming thing that is for nailing people for $6 just to watch a game that everybody wanted to watch. But that's neither here nor there. Well, I got shout out. I got four. One is to FSU football for just hanging in there with all the garbage that went on last month. And then of Coach Nick Saban, Pete Carroll, and Bill Belichick.
Wow.
Yeah, those are, I mean, can you imagine all those guys coming free at the same time? It's great.
Oh, it's awesome. And Nick Saban going out on top. He is the GOAT. What a legend. He won the SEC. He beat his mentee Kirby Smart. He took Michigan the eventual national champ to overtime. And then he was like, "You know what? I'm good." Nobody saw it coming. That guy is the best.
Well, I think he also sees it's just the right time with it. Everybody's getting the NIL now, and it's
a 365 24-hour a day job now. You got to keep recruiting your own player. It's insane. It's absolutely,
it's crazy.
He timed it perfectly. I'm so happy for the guy. Great for him. And I tell you, the real winner is us, because game day just became watchable. You put him up there with Herb Street, all of a sudden I'm watching game day.
Yeah. Before I came on with you, I saw a thing where they said they should start a new podcast with Saban and Belichick talking football.
There you go.
And they could talk total smack and nobody could say anything.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I got a trivia question for you. Now you can't answer it even if you know the answer. On what staff did Nick Saban and Pete Carroll work together as coaches?
I just learned work together. Well, no, actually, I learned something else. We'll see if it ends up being the answer to this, but it's not exactly the answer.
Yeah, well, it's close.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. Well, I got a song for today. It's Money for Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Dire Straits. So I looked it up. It was released in, you know what year it was released?
Yes. 1982.
Close. 85. Very good.
Yeah. Yep.
And the lyrics are about two working class guys sitting there watching music videos and commenting about the rich musicians making all the money while they work so hard. And there's a couple of interesting things. It was written by a guy named Mark Knopfler. It's a critique of musicians and the wealth by working class guys. The two interesting facts are it was banned in Canada. I don't know hell why. Who knows why that was?
Canada. Come on.
Of all places, Canada, what's your problem?
Banning money for nothing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Now here's the other one. Do you know who sang the backup guest appearance on the song?
Ooh, interesting. Don Henley.
No, and he sang.
Random guess.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. He said, the background falsetto of the intro and the vocals, and I want my MTV. Sting.
Oh, that is actually a great nugget. And yes, it is Sting.
Yeah, so listen to it the next time. It goes, money for nothing. I want my MTV.
That is awesome. Sting at the height of Sting's power too. The Police and were absolutely crushing it.
That was pretty. I mean, that was pretty good. Well, what do you want to talk about? I mean, we can talk about anything. I wrote down a few topics and we could go with any of them, but the first one I thought about was the transfer portal and the rule changes that got to occur. What do you think about all that stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh, go right ahead. I'm absolutely in favor of making the timeline make sense. And there has to be something where coaches can't leave their jobs during
Yeah.
certain windows, because that's where all this stuff starts. That's the first domino that happens. And because they can do that at any time, that's kind of a problem. And then you have interesting things like Ohio State waiting until the day after the portal closes to announce they're bringing in Will Howard from Kansas State. Devin Brown might have wanted to transfer somewhere, who knows? But I found that timing, and that's very sly by Ryan Day. I would do the exact same thing if I was in his situation. But it's not doing what's best for the players, that's for sure.
Well, and it's all about, right now it's been all about the quarterbacks. I was interested in watching how Texas panned out because Ewers is apparently coming back, and I was still amazed that the Manning boy would stay. But
Yeah, that one's interesting. We'll see during spring. There's another round of this. That's the thing.
well, that's true. If you win it. So my idea was, the one thing I said was they should open the transfer portal after January 1.
Yeah,
And
play the
that,
bowl games, or
well,
even next year. I think the I think the national championship is the middle of January next year.
well, I think the other thing is, and we're going to 12 teams next year, and I think it's fine to have a certain number of bowl games, but I think they got to get over this, you know, the Gator ate the tree spinning washing bowl with 2, 5, and 6 teams or something. I understand they make money or whatever. I don't know why, but I think they have to hone that down because nobody wanted to play in them. You and I'll watch them just because we watch football, but
No,
I just,
I disagree with that one.
do you?
So monetarily, more people watch those random bowl games when they're at home with their families than anything else on television at that time.
Well,
So
because
it's a
there's
big
nothing
winner
else.
for ESPN. Yeah, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's a big winner for ESPN. And for the 6 and 6, 7 and 5, like mid-tier programs, the young men get to travel to a new city. They get some free swag. It's not necessarily a great football game, but in those games, a lot of the people are playing. You get a chance to see a young freshman quarterback. Tennessee got to play their freshmen. Other teams get to play their guys. There's really no downside. I mean, the Georgia-Florida State game, I didn't watch. I took a nap during that game. But that problem's solved next year because you have a 12-team playoff. Those teams are in the playoff. So I don't think you're going to have opt-outs, and I would say look at your own program. Iowa, you'll see 2 guys play on Saturday for the Detroit Lions, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. They played in the bowl game last year. It was a meaningless bowl game. But the culture at Iowa, they're going to go out there and play for their brothers. Some of these other programs might not have that type of culture. So, that's their problem. But as an Iowa fan, I would say,
well, that was
an
an argument here for all the stuff that they went through, but with Norville and the culture, although he's changing the culture at that school. So, you give it time, and once they all go to these playoffs, I mean, who knows what it is 3 years from now? I don't really know.
Which, by the way, have you seen how that playoff is going to work next year? Let me pull this up. I don't think people realize how amazing this is. So next year, you're going to have Friday, December 19th, 1 game, Saturday, December 20th, 3 games. Those are all going to be on campuses,
right,
on Friday and Saturday. Then you're going to have the quarterfinals, 1 game New Year's Eve, 3 games New Year's Day, including the Rose Bowl. Then you're going to have semifinals on Thursday and Friday, January 8th and 9th, right before NFL wildcard weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So that's Thursday, Friday, college football Final Four, wildcard weekend. I mean, this is going to be absolutely incredible.
So the initial games were all played at the highest seeds home stadium.
Yeah, so it's 4 teams get a bye? Yeah, 4 teams get a bye.
So yeah.
So then you've got 5-12, 6-11,
4 games.
7-10. Yeah. So you really want to be the 8th seed instead of the 9 seed, so you're at home.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So these silly little playoff rankings that they do every week all of a sudden matter even more.
Well, it is going to be interesting because even if you looked at this year and took the 12th team and threw them up against pick them. Georgia, Ohio State, whatever, they're going to get their butt whooped. I don't know who was 12th, but in this year's rankings.
Yeah,
But
so it would have been, here's your first round this year. Liberty, because you got to put the highest group of 5 team in there.
yeah.
So you would have had Liberty at Florida State, which with Florida State's backup, or backup to the backup, but then you'd have Ole Miss at Georgia, Penn
Ooh,
State at Ohio State,
wow.
rematch, Missouri at Oregon.
Oh, that would have been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to it. I mean, that's something to get excited about. Like I said, all these balls in the air, who knows how it comes down to pass, So what do you think about all the coaching changes? I mean, not just the normal, okay, you're fired and whatever, although that is amazing, but the fact that, it was interesting to me to hear the talk about Pittsburgh, but it was also interesting to see, uh, Pete Carroll retire. He didn't.
Yeah, he's still an advisor, and he said he was still fought for his job in the press conference.
Yeah, no, he still wants to coach, and I think my take on him would be if would be if Harbaugh doesn't go to L.A., he should. I mean, I'd love to see. I mean, he's from that part of the world, and he was successful in Los Angeles with.
Oh, that'd be a cool pairing. He could even keep Kellen Moore there if Kellen Moore doesn't get a head coaching job. He could stay as the OC with Herbert, so there's continuity there.
Yeah, I think that. Although, I think this time that I think Harbaugh will take that job. That's just my gut.
Oh, for sure, I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Now the other ones, golly Neds. I mean, if I'm sitting here as a coach interviewing for these jobs, it's like you said, when Belichick went down and interviewed in Atlanta, they said, what does he need to interview with the owner for? You're hired. What do you need to know about my resume? But I think really they missed the point. The point is between him and the owner. I mean, the difference between the owner in Atlanta and the owner in Dallas are light years.
Oh, yes. In terms of their involvement in the operation.
Yeah. So the deal with Belichick is he says, okay, if we can make a trade for, say, Justin Fields in Atlanta, we've got
that actually would be a great pairing. Fields, that locker room absolutely loves him, and the coaching staff loves him.
And you're right. There's going to be some flipping around at the top. For example, I heard through the grapevine that Drake May doesn't want to go to Washington, and that's because he doesn't want to go up and go head to head with Sam Howell. I mean, just because they're friends and stuff, that now if he gets drafted there, he's going, that. But I think there'll be a lot of flipping at the top. I think like you said, the Bears, I think they could still get probably Marvin Harrison and get a lot of draft capital by flipping number 1 to number 5 or 4 or something. If they kept Fields, golly Neds, I know I watch TV. I saw all the games. I know it's a great athlete and all that, but I'm just not head over heels in love with the guy from Southern Cal. I'm just not.
No, well, this year was not great, and the one marquee game he had against a good defense at Notre Dame, he was actually pretty bad. A couple turnovers. So his best film is actually at Oklahoma 2 years ago, and then last year at USC. But this year's stuff is not great. And then, I mean, him and Drake May are both. I'd be thrilled with either one of them as a Bears fan. They're going to take one of them. And then Drake May, he just had some turnovers at some bad times. And then that Clemson game wasn't great on the road.
Well, the question I have for you as a Bears fan is, if they're keeping the coach, like you said, then at this point, you're 3 years into the rookie quarterback with Fields, right? He'd be in his 4th year next year.
Yep.
So
that's correct.
Yeah. I feel like when I watch him now, he's improving,
Yeah. So in a normal scenario, like even last year when they had the number 1 pick, and CJ Stroud is definitely looking great, but no one thought of CJ Stroud and Bryce Young what they think of Caleb and Drake May right now.
Right.
I'd ride with Fields. but this is a unique scenario where you also get to reset the money. So think about this, like
Yeah, go
even in a
back to
where
yeah,
Fields is good, you got to pay him starting in 2026 $40 million,
right.
whereas your rookie's making 8, 9 million. I mean, that's a couple players that you can go out and
Well,
get.
that's the
So like
same.
that
Yeah,
alone is a so but then if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna start over with a new quarterback, you don't bring a coach back. An average coach, by no
right.
means is this guy Bill Bell. He's just a guy. And yeah, he didn't lose the locker room. That's a low bar. Okay, he's getting paid millions of dollars. He should be able to keep the locker room together. To keep the coach, fire the offensive coordinator. So now the coach has to win week 1. So what's he going to do? He's going to trot Caleb or Drake out there to try to keep his job instead of being focused on year 3, year 4 of a rookie quarterback. You're bringing back a coach because you're too cheap to pay out the last 2 years on his contract.
Well,
So that just pisses me. They should be getting Harbaugh. That's
well,
who
here,
should be hiring Harbaugh is the Bears.
well, here's the other one that's interesting. Throwing out that same idea is Tua. Tua's in that same thing. They got to decide: are we going to give him 40
Yep.
million a year? And
Yep.
he's year 4, I think.
Yep. A lot
Uh,
of concussion issues,
yeah.
regressed at the end of the year.
Now, C.J. Stroud, that was who I wanted the Panthers to take, not because the
So
other.
did Frank Reich, I think, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. Now we know what the owner was
That,
doing.
that's, I mean, when you see a guy quit on the job like that, I don't
Well,
know, pretty honest.
the deal with what I was going to say is, I think the kid in Carolina can be a success if you get him a good line and
Yep. Two is a
and
great comp with him. Everything around him has to be perfect. Great
well,
line, great playmakers, great
yeah,
defense.
and then
But
is he
you don't want to give up DJ Moore and all those picks and go up to 1 for that,
well?
by the
So
way.
what I was going to say is understand, everybody's throwing out, and they were comparing the two head to head, and one of the problems with that comparison is that the worst trade before was Herschel Walker to Minnesota for the whole draft. Okay. By who was that? Parcells, or who was it? No,
Jimmy,
huh?
Jimmy Johnson.
No, he didn't trade away. This was Parcells in Dallas or somebody. I'm blanking. But anyways, point to that is this trade that they sent to Cleveland. That guy's they're in the huck for 250 million. I don't think he'll play hardly ever. Watson. And what they got in return was a king's ransom.
Yep.
So Houston was already a couple years ahead of where the Panthers were in terms of that draft pick. CJ Stroud, of course, is a stud and a great, but they also had a line. They had some wide receivers. They had another draft pick to get the number 1, the defensive rookie of the year on the defensive side.
Will Anderson. Yep.
Yeah. And
who everyone knew was going to be great, by the way.
yeah. And they got multiple draft number 1 picks this year. So they,
Yep.
they got a ransom for sending Watson, and they got rid of Watson, which they wanted to do anyways.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Yep.
They didn't want anything to do with him after all the off the field issues. So
And then Joe Flacco hopped off the couch and played better than him.
that was really cool. I was really pulling for him. I hated when he threw the interceptions, but after the fact, even as a Cleveland fan or any Cleveland fan, you couldn't, I mean, my God, you were in the middle of a crap hole in the middle, and all of a sudden you win 4 out of 5, make the playoffs, and this guy's throwing 350 yards a game. And it was fun. It was kind of lightning in a bottle. It was great. And
I heard somebody compare it to like a bender, but now it's over. You can't hang out with Flacco anymore. You got to go back to Watson. So
yeah,
see. But I'm happy for Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff, 2 former number 1 picks who are kind of thrown out, given up on, and they're still playing.
Well, Baker's playing for this was a career saver because he was.
He said Sean McVay last year when he was with the Rams helped him get his swagger back and his game back, and it's a great story.
Because he was going to be a career backup if this fell through in Tampa.
Yep.
Now what I hear is that he'll get a contract now. He won't get the
Yeah.
he won't get the 40, but he'll probably get 3 years at 30.
Yep.
Um,
He'll get a Geno Smith like kind of
yes,
bridge
exactly.
contract. Yep.
That was who they said. He'll get a Genius. Well,
Yep.
that's okay. I think I could make
Oh yeah.
100 million for 3 years would
Yeah. And just
probably,
know you're going to be in the same spot. You're not just going
yeah.
place to place to be a backup.
Yeah. And so that you're right. I've been all, and who was the other kid that was in the Carolina brought down? Is he a backup in LA?
Darnold in San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Oh, Sam Darnold. Oh, is he in
Yeah,
San-
he's in a good spot. I wouldn't mind being a backup out there, hanging out with Kyle Shanahan and
Yeah. So maybe, maybe he can salvage too. You never know. See, that's like I always go back when I talk to you that when I was your age, quarterbacks never played until they were like Jordan Love. And then they
Yep.
would have success, but Jordan
Lot to be
Love,
said for that.
think about it. He's in his 5th year or whatever.
Lot
And
to be said for that.
yeah, so he knows the
Pat
system.
Mahomes sat for a year.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Pat Mahomes he's playing backyard ball every game like you and I'd play. He, throws it underhand, overhand, behind his back, whatever.
Yeah. Who do you like this week? I tell you, Super Bowl picks. I got the Chiefs. I got boring Super Bowl picks. I got Chiefs, 49ers. 49ers win the Super Bowl. Pretty chalky.
Yeah, I'm going 49ers for sure. I think Green Bay will give them a tough game this week because
Yeah, if they can make it a shootout, if they can find a way to put in
I
some
think that,
touchdowns up.
but I'm going to say I'm with the Niners. And in the AFC, I don't know. I mean, it's going to go through Baltimore, Now, here's the deal. Watch out with that game because they have Houston, right?
Yep.
That just, if that kid keeps staying on fire, you never know.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's a big spread at all.
No, I have a hard time saying against Buffalo in Buffalo. And this is the first time in his career that Mahomes has played on the road in the playoffs. First time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's just crazy. So
I just can't bet against him. And that defense, this is by far the best defense he's had. And their offense is down, and it is down, but it's still a top 10 offense in the NFL. I mean, I think most people would still take it. And Rashee Rice has emerged as his number one receiver. Tell you who needs to play better is Kelsey.
yeah, he hadn't played well. But
He has lost a step.
But you know what? That's a tough call to go to Buffalo and then go to Baltimore and get to the Super Bowl.
It is. It is.
I mean, they can do it, but that's the only drawback I have on that one.
It's asking a lot. Hopefully it snows in Buffalo because it was fun watching them throw all the snowballs around.
It says it's supposed to be like 20, balmy. It's going to be wonderful.
Oh,
well, you got anything else you want to throw out there before we go?
Oh yeah, I got a trivia question.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to go back and get mine answered, but go for it.
Is it Ohio State?
Oh, my answer? Yes. They were all on the college staff of a guy named Earl Bruce in the 80s. And the most interesting thing was I did not know. Now I know that Saban, he was at Kent State and stuff. I didn't know those roots for Seattle coach. I didn't know he had it. I'd have to look up where he's from, but he went from there and he became the OC at NC State.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pete Carroll. So he went from Ohio State to NC State, and then I don't know where he went, but yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, he's a West Coast guy. He was born in San Francisco, and he went to college at Pacific.
Okay, well
that's where he started. But then he went Arkansas, Iowa State. Then he got on. If you're going to climb the ladder, here's how you do it: Arkansas, Iowa State, Ohio State. 3 years at NC State, Pacific, the Bills. 5 years at the Vikings. 4 years with the Jets. 1 year as the Jets head coach, 2 years with the Niners, 3 years as the Patriots head coach. 9 years with USC before finally 14 years with the Seahawks.
Good golly, I don't remember the Jets or the Patriots stints. I guess
Yeah,
I
the Patriots, that was right before Belichick. So he kind of had them.
well, that was where Belichick went to Cleveland or came over and then went back and all that stuff back then.
Yeah, and Belichick's Cleveland staff, Nick Saban, Kirk Ferentz, Jim Schwartz, who's the Browns
Yeah.
DC, was the Lions head coach, Scott Pioli. That tree is absolutely amazing. Yeah, Saban and Belichick, I like your idea of those two guys being together.
Yeah, that would be a great podcast. Maybe we can get them on. We'll send them a note.
Yeah, we'll talk to their agents.
Talk to
They
their
got
agent.
time.
Hey,
Come on.
They can call our agent. I mean, or call our wives or whatever. So what's your trivia question?
We got to get their people
to talk to our people.
Yeah. So in the last 25 years, how many times has a Bears offensive coordinator been there more than 2 seasons? 25 years.
Once.
2.
Well, it had to be low.
And not since Ron Turner, like 17 years ago. So this is what they do. They just take these half measures where they fire the offensive coordinator, then they keep the coach, then they bring in a new quarterback, then they fire the coach, then they bring in a new coach, a new offensive coordinator, and they fire the just cycle.
Well, it's like what the Panthers did. The Panthers had a very good coaching staff with Reich brought in. He brought in a lot of experienced people to mentor the young number 1 draft pick. The problem was they gave up the farm. So they had no offensive talent. They had a running backs, but they had no offensive talent. They have a good defense. But wow, it was like watching paint dry. If you ever went to one of those games, that's how the stadium looked on a lot of Sundays back there, folks. Those blue seats.
Well, it's crazy. They're a national laughingstock right now.
Well, I mean, because of that, if you throw water on the
that rate, it was already, and then he just poured gasoline on it.
I think if he's smart now, he'll hire through this process. They'll find a really good general manager, and they'll let the process pan out. And then he's got to stay out of the way for a year. The eye opener for me was when I heard on talk radio that Frank Reich was required to meet with him weekly. Yeah. What other team meets with the owner
Dallas.
on a weekly basis?
Dallas.
Maybe. But I don't even think.
But at least Jerry Jones is a pretty decent general manager.
Yeah, I don't, and he's got his son doing a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, that's right. No, it's great. It's micromanaging, and he's got better things to do, the head coach, than meet with the owner. That's very concerning to hear that.
Well, it's a good start to 2024. It'll be a lot of fun. We got a lot of good football this weekend, and like you say, Kirk Ferentz is in the 100th year of his 120-year contract, so he's good. And
but they haven't hired an offensive coordinator. The son coached the bowl game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they planned on hiring Paul Chryst,
really?
The old Wisconsin coach.
Yeah, I remember him.
But he decided being a special assistant, like he doesn't even have a title, he's not an offensive coordinator or anything, at Texas was better than being the offensive coordinator at Iowa. So it's January 17th. They still haven't filled that position.
Well, isn't it interesting how these guys rehab their careers, starting with a guy at Mississippi, Lane Kiffin, but they go around, bounce around and do that. And the Rutgers coach did the same thing. He went down, did the NFL thing. So he came back as a DC for Ohio State for a couple of years, got his feet back in the system in the Big Ten, and went back to Rutgers, where he probably shouldn't have never left because he loved it there. So, you never know.
That's what I love about Saban, is that there was whatever year it was when he was complaining about, is this what we want the sport to be? When all these spread teams came up and he was losing, and then he was like, fine. That's what you're going to do. I'm going to hire Lane Kiffin. I'm going to start recruiting athletic quarterbacks. I'm going to start recruiting Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and all these stud wide receivers, and I'm just going to get more trophies. That man just kept adapting. What a legend. The GOAT, Nick Saban.
Yeah, he was a great coach. Plus, he has a fun. His pressers are pretty good. They're
Yeah, I
not
can't wait. Him on TV
they're not
is
they're
going to be
they're not
great.
as good as Mike Leach, but they're
R.I.P.
they're pretty good.
Mike Leach.
So, just as a leaving thought for you folks, if you want to watch something to make your day besides watching Robin Williams on golf, watch Mike Leach when he's asked at a presser what he thought about all the mascots in the Pac-12 and who would win a battle of the mascots. And it'll just have you in tears. He's so funny. He says that tree's got no chance. Okay, Billy. Well, have a happy 2024, and we'll look forward to doing this again and kicking off a new year when we get together.
Yeah, hopefully the next time Iowa has an offensive coordinator. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll see you, man.